Hi, welcome to Jersey Matters. On this week's show, foreclosures in the state. We're still in a crisis. What is the state going to do about it? And a school that may have to close down because of the new school funding formula. We'll talk about it. We'll take you to the Atlantic City Airshow. It has a new theme this year. And the state now has a state microbe. We'll tell you what it is. And now our interview on the foreclosure crisis with Linda Osborne, housing specialist with the Affordable Housing Alliance. New Jersey has improved a little bit, but still leads the country in the number of housing foreclosures. It is a dubious distinction, but the state's now gotten involved, and there's many organizations that are there to help. My next guest is with one of those organizations, Linda Osborne, the lead housing counselor with the Affordable Housing Alliance. Thank you so much.
Hello, Larry.
For being here. When do you get involved? When does your organization get involved with foreclosures?
Okay, we are the Affordable Housing Alliance. We're located in Neptune and throughout Monmouth and Ocean counties. Homeowners in distress come to us for housing counseling. We review their situation and determine what best might help them. The foreclosure mediation program is available to homeowners in distress, but there are limitations to the program.
Explain why the mediation is important. So if you're a homeowner and the bank is about to foreclose on you, you are advising they shouldn't do their own communication with the bank?
Absolutely not. We've been doing this for a long time. We know what the lenders are looking for as far as underwriting guidelines to approve their loan modification. So it's best to meet with a housing counselor to go over your financials. We prepare the paperwork. We know what they're looking for. It gets submitted to the lender's attorney and it goes to the lender's underwriter for review. Hopefully we'll get a good workout for the homeowner to remain in the home. So
the banks and the lenders and the underwriters, they're not bad people, but they're going to look out for themselves. They look out for their end. You are there to help
make sure everything goes according to a protocol for the program, that they're adhering to their underwriting guidelines and gives the homeowner a fair review.
When you mediate, are you mediating to try to save the home for the homeowner or just come out with the best deal possible for the homeowner?
Yes, we mediate to retain the property and allow the homeowner to remain and live there.
So what are some ways a homeowner can retain the property if they can't afford to pay their mortgage?
Well, what we're proposing after reviewing the financials is perhaps a lower interest rate, extending the term out possibly back to 30 years or 40 years, depending on what kind of loan it is. In some cases, principal reduction.
So the banks are willing to do that because they don't want to take ownership of the home?
Exactly. They want to keep homeowners in their home.
Because their business is doing loans. Their business, so if they can extend the loan and make it more comfortable for you to stay in the house, your experience is they will do that.
Exactly. With the amount of submissions we have at the Affordable Housing Alliance for the foreclosure mediation program, we're at 70% success rate.
It's taken a while, but the state now has started to address the problems of foreclosures in New Jersey, and they came up with 9 bills that the governor has signed into law. Once they take effect, once it becomes law, where do you fit in?
We will still meet with homeowners in distress and review their situation and advise accordingly. Some people, we could go straight to the lender to do a workout situation. Others, they're within the 60-day mark of being served a summons and complaint, and we're able to still register them for the mediation program.
Now, from what I understand with the new bills, that 60 days is going to extend.
It will be extended. I believe it's going to be within 3 months.
So 3 months, I would imagine it's going to be much easier for you to do your job.
It will give the opportunity to homeowners in distress more time to apply for the program.
So you believe that these bills, especially when it comes to that bill and specifically, will lower the amount of foreclosures in the state of New Jersey?
I hope so. I do hope so. We'll be able to talk to more people as long as they know about the program. Most people that were served summons and complaint do not want to face it. They think they have plenty of time. Well, New Jersey foreclosures have moved through the process more swiftly. Years ago, you would be in foreclosure for 5, 6 years. Now it's more like 6 to 8 months.
No, I understand completely what you're talking about, and I think that's one of the reasons people end up losing their houses and their homes is because not because they don't know what's coming, but because they ignore what's coming, or they put off what's coming because it's uncomfortable to talk to the bank. It's uncomfortable to talk to a lender, which is exactly where you come in. What's the number one reason that people get into trouble, aside from just ignoring the notices? But is it a loss of job?
Mostly it's a reduction of income of some sort, but I'm starting to see a lot of medical debt prohibiting people to pay their mortgage, in some cases death of a borrower. But mostly it's unemployment. People have lost their full-time, good-paying jobs. Some people working 2 part-time jobs and still not making the money that they used to when they originated the loan.
So are you saying this is an offshoot of the health insurance crisis in the country? One of the offshoots of it is that people can't afford their insurance or can't afford their medical treatments, and then they lose their homes?
Exactly. Some of them got medical insurance through their full-time position and have lost that job, and now working 2 part-time jobs with no medical coverage.
Well, let's get to the important stuff. How do people that may find themselves in this situation or nearing this situation, which I would imagine is just as important, how do they get a hold of you?
Sure. We're the Affordable Housing Alliance. We're headquartered in Neptune. Our telephone number is 732-389-2958. And we also have a website that you could apply and do an intake form on. The website is www.housingall.org. We cover the whole state of New Jersey, but our offices are in Ocean and Monmouth County.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you coming in. Nice to talk to you. Linda Osborne, the lead housing counselor with the Affordable Housing Alliance. Jersey Matters continues right after this. Still to come on Jersey Matters, the new school funding formula is supposed to help schools. We'll tell you why it may close one down when we come right back. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. The school funding formula for the state is changing. There will be winners and there will be losers, but one school in particular is facing closure over the new formula. Scott Gershman is the president of the Teachers Association in Roosevelt Township, and Leo Gordon is a board member of Roosevelt Public School. Thank you both for being here. I really appreciate it. So what is the problem?
Well, the problem is that the new school funding formula has taken away about 15% of our budget, and we have no way of making up for those cuts. So we've had to, unfortunately, lay off some staff and programs for the students, which is obviously something that doesn't benefit the school as a whole, and the students are missing out on some valuable programs that we've had over the years, which have led us to the great success that we've had at Roosevelt Public School.
And when he says great success, you're one of the top schools in the state.
Absolutely.
But you're a small school.
We are K through 6, one of the best K through 6 schools in the district, probably in the state. We rank better than most elementary schools throughout the state.
If I could just add to that, according to niche.com, which ranks public schools, we are actually the #1 public school in Monmouth County.
So do you feel like you're being targeted for some reason? Like why in this new formula do you not have a safety net?
The new S2 formula is very hard to explain in just a matter of minutes, but basically it's based on enrollment,
right.
And our enrollment, because we're so small, it's hard for us to show growth.
But it's based on local taxes, too,
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. But you don't have a lot of people to tax.
We don't. If we tax at the top tax bracket 3%, we make less than $40,000. So that is the entire amount of money that we bring in from
But
taxes.
even if you wanted to tax at a higher rate,
We couldn't.
You couldn't do it because there's a cap on that.
Absolutely.
So you're stuck literally between a rock and a hard place. There's no way out of this dilemma.
Correct. I mean, we lost $150,000 for this coming school year alone, and that's just the first year. Then we're going to keep losing about $90,000 to $100,000 a year after that for the next 4 years, I think it is.
And our budget is so small already. You know, if you look at our budget for the entire school, it's equivalent to what most schools pay for books and supplies. That's how small the school's
Now, people
budget
are going to say immediately when they hear your story, they're going to say, oh, it's a small school, just consolidate. You should have the kids go to another school. What's the problem with that?
There's no advantage for another school to bring us in. Even though we're a great school, 100 kids, what is that going to do for the other school? They usually, when you're consolidating, you're looking for the resources from that other school. We have one building, and the building is so far from most of the ascending districts, it's no advantage for them to utilize the
So it would be a real hardship to the parents to get to another school.
It certainly would, and based on the Board of Ed meetings that we've had since this news came out, I mean, the whole town has showed up. The town really centers around that school. It is really the only building in the town. If you've ever traveled to Roosevelt, the only building that gets used is the post office. So that school is kind of the center of the entire town, and it's a historic place. It's on the National Registry and the State Registry. And if anything were to happen to that school, the town itself would really suffer as far as its identity and its future.
Well, the town would basically close up.
Absolutely. There's no advantage for anyone to live there if the school closes. All the families that have joined us in the recent 2-3 years have joined us because of the school system. The reason why I moved there about 12, 13 years ago was for the school system.
And it probably keeps property values up because you have a good school, and those property values are going to drop as soon as if the school were to close up, I would think.
Drastically.
The school is so good, I understand through the choice program, there's a lot of parents that want their children to go to that school.
Yes, about a third of our student population comes from the choice program. And we would love to have more. What we're hoping for, one of the outcomes or one of the possible solutions to this is that the commissioner would lift the cap on choice students. If we could just bring in more students, we would not be in such the financial trouble that we are. And we would love to teach more students and fill the school with more kids and educate them to the best of our ability, which apparently is very good. So we would, again, love to have more students.
Do you have room for them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How many kids could you take?
We could probably add comfortably another 40, 50 students in our school.
So that's double the number of choice students you have now?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we could certainly take on, we have about 30 now, we could certainly take on another 40.
Would that solve the problem?
For the moment, as long as choice stays funded.
Right.
So that's a fix right now. But overall, a real easy fix would be an amendment to this law. Just look at the amount of money that the school makes. Schools that make $10 million, less than $10 million, if they're not affected by that, that will fix the problem. Because small schools that have small budgets are affected by this drastically.
But I can't see how it would that negatively affect another school district to lose 40 to 45, because they're not all going to come from one school district, right? I mean, it wouldn't have a negative effect on another school district.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely not. Right. The school districts that are losing the students, they're not complaining.
So is this a possibility?
Our hope is that it is a possibility, that right now there is a cap. We cannot get any more students. So we're hoping that, along with all the school funding cuts, that someone would say, well, an easy solution to this would just be to lift the cap, and hopefully someone, the commissioner or someone else in the DOE would be able to do that.
It would benefit kids that wanted to go there. I'm sure there's parents that wanted their kids to go there that couldn't get in there. It would benefit the town. It would benefit the school. Help me. What's the negative? Who would it hurt?
I believe the problem is we're thinking about money as opposed to thinking about children. The law, the choice program, all of these things don't take children into account. We're penny pinching on education like we do a lot in the country, and it's hurting the kids. If someone stopped and said, hey, this school, a #1 school in New Jersey, is about to close, and we said, what are we going to do with these children? As opposed to talking about the money, let's start talking about the children. That will probably get people to start thinking differently about how we fund programs and how we move money for the children.
All right, that's a perfect way to end this segment. Thank you so much. I
Thank you for
appreciate
having
you
me.
being here. Please let us know what happens.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Scott Gershman, president of the Teachers Association in Roosevelt Township, and Leo Gordon, a board member of the Roosevelt Public School. Jersey Matters continues right after this. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. The Atlantic City Airshow is one of the most spectacular events in the state. And this year, there's a new twist. Our Kimberly Kravitz tells us what it is. Kimberly.
Jet planes are soaring through the sky for the signature summer event. The formerly known Atlantic City Airshow has a new name and a new message, a salute to those who serve.
The energy is infectious, and it's off the scale.
The 17th Annual Atlantic City Airshow is back again, and this time with a special theme.
This year, there was a decided focus to support our military and to make it the Atlantic City Airshow a salute to those that serve. That's the theme this year.
The U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, the Royal Air Force Red Arrows, and the Golden Knights were excited to be in Atlantic City for the event they wait for all year.
The show is very dynamic. It's 9 aircraft doing formation aerobatics. In settings like this, we've got the glorious weather, great coastline, a bit of a skyline behind, and a great crowd. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Children and young people don't know what aviation is, and they don't really get a taste of it, so we like to bring that to them.
What are the qualities that somebody would need in order to perform in the sky? I mean, it's just pristine.
Absolutely. It's a very competitive process to be selected for the Thunderbirds. All Thunderbird pilots come from combat wings throughout the world, so you have to have at least 750 hours in a fighter-type aircraft. Most of our guys actually have a lot more than that.
A lot of training, a lot of practice, and we're all used to flying high-performance aircraft, being in the military, so it's just taking those skills and adapting them in front of the public.
It is so much more than entertainment. It is also an opportunity to recruit people who are interested in serving.
As everyone knows, we're an all-volunteer military, so we don't make people serve. People have to want to serve. So you will see up and down the boardwalk at various stands all the military branches, and it's a recruitment day for the military.
In fact, we met with some veterans who return each year to volunteer.
I did 24 years in Air Force, and I enjoyed every minute of it, and I used to do these air shows.
So when you say you were in the air show, what was your role?
Oh, we would stand by the aircraft and show people, about the airplane. Most of the time we did it at the air bases.
What is the responsibility to put on a show like this?
Well, it starts the day after the show. It's a full year activity. We do a debriefing the week after the show and start planning the next ones.
I'm sure it's a very costly event, and it does draw a huge crowd. So what kind of money goes into an event like this?
The economic impact is over $45 million for the businesses, because it really starts in Brigantine and goes all the way past Ventnor. So a lot of the businesses do very well as a result of the show.
One thing is for sure, all eyes were on the sky.
What I saw was just absolutely beautiful. You had everything from just fighter pilots that are incredibly skilled in their trade to just sheer coordination, and it was amazing.
And why does it come here to Atlantic City out of anywhere else? Why do you think it comes here each year?
Well, we're very blessed. Think about it. Atlantic City, 30 million people a year come. Let's start there. Less than 20 million people go to the Magic Kingdom in Disney World, the happiest place on earth. You will not find a venue for an air show anywhere in America, Kim, that has our vantage point. That really can't happen in too many places, because we have the infrastructure here in Atlantic City, the parking, the hotel rooms, and the ability to view it.
The air show draws more than 400,000 people to Atlantic City each year to pay homage to those who serve, but also to check out these jets soaring in the sky. Reporting from Atlantic City, I'm Kimberly Kravitz for Jersey Matters.
All right, thank you, Kimberly. When we come back, if you're in the Hoboken area, you might want to try out one of the electric scooters, because they may not be around for long. We'll explain when Jersey Matters continues. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Manti. If you're in the Hoboken area, you might want to go into the city and try out the electric scooters, because your input may decide whether they keep them or not. Our Heather Fordham tried them out. Heather.
In May, Governor Phil Murphy signed a law legalizing the use of electric scooters. The city of Hoboken launched a 6-month pilot period allowing people to ride around the city on electric scooters. If the program goes well, the city of Hoboken could be the first and only municipality in the state of New Jersey with an e-scooter share program.
Commuting around the busy streets of Hoboken has just gotten easier and greener for some residents.
It's quick, you go from point A to point B in a matter of minutes.
Currently, there are 300 scooters available for rent throughout the square mile city, giving the city's residents another option for travel.
Scooters, ladies and gentlemen, they provide an ease of mind for residents. They have another option to drive efficiently from one point to another.
As one of the most densely populated and transit-rich communities in the country, the city of Hoboken established a climate action plan aiming to reduce the use of greenhouse gas emissions.
Scooters are a part of that in the sense that it's a green form of transportation. The goal here is to try to reduce reliance on cars, which are one of the principal emitters of carbon emissions and that have a negative impact on climate change.
Just a month after the launch of the scooter program, a survey concluded that 30% of riders were taking scooters instead of a car trip.
So far, they've been very popular. There's been almost 250,000 rides in just over 2 months. We have about 50,000 unique riders who have used the scooters during that time, and the combined mileage that's been ridden is over 200,000 miles, which is roughly the distance from the Earth to the Moon.
The California-based scooter companies Lime and Ojo have held rider outreach events to educate and enforce rules for their riders.
They've done things called First Ride Academies, where they teach people for the first time who haven't ridden a scooter how to safely do that, what the rules are.
It's safe. There's a lot of warnings about it. Like it tells you you need to wear a helmet and age restrictions and things like that. So it's not like they're just here, go use it. They're the people who made it. They're being smart about it.
Ordinances to regulate electric scooter safety include a speed limit, age restriction, and they are not allowed on the sidewalks. Instead, users must ride in the city's bike lanes. There are violations in place for riders who don't abide by the rules, starting with a $20 fine for the first violation, $50 for the second violation, and $500 for a third violation. After that, riders will receive a 1-year suspension from the scooters altogether.
In the first few weeks of the program, there was definitely a lot of violations, but since education and enforcement efforts have ramped up, things have improved in terms of compliance quite a bit.
In November, Hoboken will conduct a survey of riders and review usage data to determine if the e-scooter share program will be a permanent addition to the city.
Reporting from the city of Hoboken, I'm Heather Fordham.
Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. We begin today with breaking news. New Jerseyans are happy. It is a stunning revelation, I know, but we have statistics to back it up. Ashley Koenig is the director of the Eagleton Polling Institute of Politics at Rutgers University. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Larry.
Who knew?
I should have asked him why. It's with all the issues on the table, everything that's going on nowadays, it really would have been fascinating to find out why are New Jerseyans happy, but they are. 81% say they're either very or pretty happy about the way things are in their life right now.
New Jerseyans are infamously unhappy. As a matter of fact, when I talked about your poll to some people, they immediately said, oh, that's not true.
Yeah, anecdotally, I think there's so much to worry about. There's taxes, there's politics, where, we have traffic and congestion. But I think at the end of the day, New Jerseyans say they're pretty okay with their lifestyle. Of course, that's going to differ by various demographics. We see that some are happier than others in New Jersey. You know, we always say money can't buy happiness, but those with higher levels of education, those with higher levels of income, they're definitely happier people in the state.
I guess I'm so stunned, as many New Jerseyans would be, at the results of your poll. Did you define happiness?
No, so it's kind of up to interpretation, right? And that's what surveys are about a lot of the times, where sometimes we'll provide a definition, sometimes we won't. This is all about people's perceptions and their own sense of happiness.
81%.
Yeah. Well, about 1 in 5, 21% say they're very happy. The rest say that they're pretty happy. But, you know, somewhere in at some level of happiness, we see 8 in 10 New Jerseyans say that they're doing okay.
Since the last time we've talked, you've polled a number of topics. One of the ones that stunned me almost as much as the happy poll was the rate of autism in the state.
Yeah, so actually 8 in 10 New Jerseyans say they know somebody with autism. Again, this could be a family member, a friend, a child, whether inside or outside of their family, especially prevalent among those who know a child outside of their family with autism. But the thing is, New Jerseyans really don't come into contact as frequently with individuals who have autism. So even though they may know somebody, they're not really having day-to-day or even weekly communications with somebody with autism.
Doesn't that seem like statistics in conflict with each other?
A little bit, but again, you know, we have these pockets who, you know, anyone can say, oh, well, I know somebody who has autism, or my child goes to school with somebody who has autism. So if they tangentially know somebody, that's the 8 in 10 who say they know, but they're not coming across them on a regular basis. And they also aren't really sure what the disorder is about and what autism spectrum disorder comes from. We asked whether or not they've heard it as a brain disorder, a mental illness, a behavioral problem, or a nervous system disorder, which is kind of a new and emerging research right now that it's actually connected to the nervous system.
Well, let's keep moving on down topic to topic.
Sure.
When it comes to gun violence,
yeah,
you polled if people were fearful of gun violence or if they've experienced gun violence.
Right. So, and of course, we see huge demographic disparities here. New Jerseyans overall say that they're not as concerned about gun violence happening within their area, but they are concerned about their family member or a friend becoming a victim of gun violence in the future. The ones who have seen gun violence, though, the most, the ones who are most concerned about it in their communities, in their area, Black residents, urban residents, low income and low socioeconomic status residents. Huge demographic disparities.
Tell me the difference between the two. I mean, how much higher is it in some of the urban communities?
Most likely by double digits, and looking at a difference of talking about under half of respondents versus over half of respondents if we're talking about white versus non-white residents, or if we're talking about urban region residents versus, you know, the suburbs or ex-urban counties.
There are many times the poll numbers should be a wake-up call, and I know that you are called to testify in front of the legislature about your poll numbers. The autism one is certainly one of those. But this one, when you talk about children in the inner cities who don't expect to live to a certain age, that have experienced gun violence, that have seen somebody dead, that should be a wake-up call.
The differences are really stark, and we also asked specifically about gun safety in schools. And you know, about 6 in 10 or so parents have actually talked to their children about gun safety in schools, and there's wide support for having armed guards, not as wide support for having, and in fact, very little support for arming teachers and school officials themselves.
On the national scene, especially in the Democratic primary, climate change has come to the top of the list when it comes to issues.
Yeah.
You've polled it in New Jersey. Is it at the top of the list with New Jerseyans?
Somewhat. You know, New Jerseyans are concerned. They know somewhat about it, its causes, its future effects. They don't really know how to prepare for it. And most of all, they don't want to pay for it. They don't want to pay for making, you know, storm-resistant buildings. They don't want companies to have imposed limits from the government. They would rather have incentives. So with climate change, it's kind of a mixed bag. New Jerseyans know it exists, but they also don't want anything coming out of their own pockets to solve it.
So the Green New Deal that's being pushed by almost every Democratic candidate right now that would be very costly, that may not play well in New Jersey?
Especially not in New Jersey, given, you know, we're tired and we're sick of taxes, and the number one issue is New Jerseyans want to see lower cost of living, lower tax situations, and we see that in our polling, right? 8 in 10 are dissatisfied with how taxes are handled in the state. High numbers are dissatisfied with cost of living and affordability. So any more money coming out of the pocket, New Jerseyans just don't want it.
One thing that was fascinating to me, it was a poll you took a while ago, several months ago, is the recognizability rate for politicians in the state was was surprisingly low,
Yeah.
especially when it came to Senate President Steve Sweeney, who's been in the news almost every day,
Yeah.
who's been around for a long time, who was tied with Chris Christie, and most people didn't know who he was.
You know, a large percentage don't know who Sweeney is, but this is not anything new. This has been for a long time now, even despite the media coverage. In fact, almost 1 in 5 don't know who the governor is, or don't really express an opinion on the governor, rather. Murphy has, decent favorability ratings, decent approval ratings, just over half approve of the job he's doing, but there's still a substantial part of the population that just don't express an opinion, which is kind of rare for a governor in New Jersey, especially coming off of the Christie years.
To tie this all together, you've done all these polls over the last few months since we last saw you. Is there a common theme?
I think demographic differences and looking at the state as not one monolith. I think New Jersey has so many different disparities, and just like we see nationally, looking at socioeconomic status, looking at race and ethnicity, there are some really clear differences here where what we see on New Jersey as a whole is not necessarily reflected in every subgroup within New Jersey. So definitely some stark differences.
And I guess we should know that instinctively, but we sometimes forget it, that the problems of somebody in Alpine are not the problems of somebody in Camden.
Right, but really we're one of the most diverse states in the country. So I think, this is nothing new, and I think the numbers bear that out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Larry.
I appreciate you coming in. Ashley Koenig, Director of the Eagleton Polling Institute of Politics at Rutgers University. Jersey Matters is coming back right after this. Still to come on Jersey Matters, the state has a new state microbe. And coming up, we'll introduce you to a guy who can actually pronounce its name. That's when Jersey Matters continues. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. New Jersey is only the second state to have an official state microbe, and the man that made it happen is Dr. John Warhol, president of the Warhol Institute. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thrilled to be here.
What is the official state microbe?
The official state microbe is Streptomyces griseus.
And what is that?
Okay, Streptomyces griseus, I'm so happy you asked. Streptomyces griseus is a soil bacteria that was discovered in New Jersey, in New Brunswick in 1943 by Albert Schatz. Schatz was working in the laboratory of Dr. Selman Waxman. They were looking for antibiotic compounds to come out of the ground. Streptomyces griseus made streptomycin, which is the first American antibiotic. It's the first antibiotic to kill tuberculosis, the first broad spectrum antibiotic, and the first antibiotic to kill more than penicillin could do.
Why was this important to you?
Getting a state microbe?
Yeah.
It gives me the opportunity to go out and talk about bacteria and microbes and science to people. It enables us to communicate basic science, to talk about bacteria, to let people know that there's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. And also it enables us to recognize all the great science that has come through New Jersey.
What is it about microbes and bacterium that you believe is being missed?
Everything. It's a sensitive topic for me because when people talk about STEM and science, technology, education, and math, STEM basically stands for science teaching except for microbiology. As far as I could tell, there is no mention of microbes anywhere in the STEM curriculum. So kids can go through school from K to 12 and never actually learn that there's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria, that bacteria cover you, they're inside you, they do wonderful things, that all life on Earth starts with bacteria and all life on Earth ends with bacteria. And it's getting that message out that's really important to me.
So you think it's a huge hole in our education system?
Huge, yes.
And so what have we missed then? I mean, it hasn't been taught and we seem to be doing pretty well. What are we missing?
Missing the joy and wonder. To become a microbiologist, at least in the university system now, you have to take a lot of courses before you get there. You need general bio, general chem, calc, physics, a bunch of stuff. You have to do 2 years before you get to the aha moments to learn what I just said, that without microbes, there's no life. You have to wait till a long time to learn that, let's say plague that killed off half of Europe in the 13th century. You have to go through a lot of work to get there. Plague was cool. It killed half the population, but it made possible the Renaissance because it freed up social structures and created social mobility.
It sounds like you're not done. It sounds like you have a crusade that just started with getting the state microbe.
I have a crusade, yeah. And it's funny you should mention that, because one of the slideshows that I give to people, and it's like when you talk about like the Blues Brothers, the movie, and it said in the beginning, we're on a mission from God. One of my slides in one of the presentations says, yeah, I'm on a mission from God. I want people to go out there and understand this stuff and to say, wow, that's really cool. To take the kid in the front row of class and say, that's really cool, tell me more, tell me more. That's what I want to get out of all this.
Yeah, and I was talking to you in the other room. You just came from a school where you were talking about microbes.
Right, I just came from Indian Hill School this morning, and they have a career day every year. And I go there by invitation because my children are older and they don't actually go to Indian Hill School, but they brought me in because they like me to talk. And that's what I did. And it's literally, you take the kids or students or even teachers, and they walk into the classroom and they're like, oh, I don't care about science. And then by the end, when you start telling them all these weird little facts, they're like, wow, that's really cool. And especially when you start showing them electron micrographs and pictures of the bacterium, like, they're cool. They have a lot of things going for them.
Let's move this forward. Let's extrapolate what you're talking about, because it started with I was talking about the state microbe, and then you were talking about having it taught in schools and what's missing, and that there's all these cool facts. It's much more than that, though, isn't it? Because if we were to start teaching about microbes in elementary school and in high school, we could find the person that create the next cure for something.
Oh, heck yeah.
We could find the person that is going to help make our lives better.
Right.
And as it is, they're not starting on that mission until they get to university.
Yeah, it's a long haul out. And to get people enthused, it doesn't take all that much time. It's like I could teach microbiology, enough microbiology to get people oriented and to say, wow, that's cool, I want to study that, in about an hour or 2 hours. But what happens is it's just not part of the curriculum, either because the teachers aren't comfortable teaching it or because they're afraid of having bacteria in the classroom. That's probably it. They're afraid of litigation, which is silly. Because you
don't have to have bacteria in the classroom to learn about bacteria until a certain age, right. I would think. You have a book about this, right?
I do. The book is called Dr. Warhol's Periodic Table of Microbes, The Small Guide to Small Things.
And you want the periodic table of microbes taught in schools?
Any kind of microbiology taught in school. But basically, to get the periodic table of microbes, I took the periodic table of elements, right? I shook it really hard.
It's on your tie, right?
It's on my tie, yes. I got rid of all the chemical elements, and I repopulated it with bacteria whose symbols approximate the chemical symbols. And I did that, and it worked this morning. I said, kids, do you know what the periodic table of elements is? And they said, yeah, and they all raised their hands. I said, okay, you've all seen that. The next step is to move from what you know to what you don't know. And I'm going to start talking to you about things you don't know. Now go pick a chemical symbol, and I will tell you the bacteria that goes with it. And they just started picking, and it was great. We had a half hour of discussion like that.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for educating us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dr. John Warhol, president of the Warhol Institute. Jersey Matters continues right after this. When we come back, we continue our tour of New Jersey state parks. We'll take you to Cape May Point when Jersey Matters continues.
Hi, Dawn Stanslamenti, and welcome to Cape May Point State Park, which you may think is best known for its historic lighthouse. In fact, it's world famous for what happens here every fall.
Cape May Point, New Jersey is a major migratory route for tens of thousands of birds every year, which is why bird watchers worldwide flock here in the fall, packing this large platform for a premier hawk watch, earning Cape May the nickname of Raptor Capital of North America. Experts estimate average daily totals of 500 birds.
Every fall, we have a world-famous bird migration that comes through Cape May Point. The birds have to come this way because of the geography and the weather patterns.
Naturalist Matthew Pellegrin told me this state park is home to beautiful birds and rare wildlife year-round, thanks to the unique habitat that's protected by the state.
The park was actually set aside because it's freshwater wetlands and forest at the beach. South Jersey has lots of freshwater wetlands, and lots of forest. But if you want to see this habitat at the beach, you pretty much have to come here.
Many visitors come here to see the 157-foot-high historic lighthouse rebuilt in 1859. If you climb the 199 steps to the top, this is your payoff. An amazing panoramic view of the scenic Cape May Peninsula. For Pellegrin, it's a sacred place filled with childhood memories.
I grew up here, and I used to play here. And I've been around this park since I was 12 years old, and I'm now 50. And we recently found a photo of me with my nephews and niece here when I was 18. And it's just very special to be able to help families make memories just like we made them.
For history buffs, this was once a military base built as part of the Harbor Defense Project of 1942. Including the bunker on the beach. At low tide, you can still see the gun turrets at the front of the bunker. Erosion has claimed much of the base, which is now underwater, making swimming here dangerous and off limits. Inside the park's museum, children learn about protecting endangered species and the environment. The park's trails are perfect for nature walks. See all the wildflowers, the butterflies, turtles, and frogs. And of course, you can't miss the kissing swans, creating a heart shape. It's a symbol to those who love this land.
Come and visit us and say hi. and hopefully you fall in love with the place just like I did when I was 12.
An added benefit for visitors this fall, new studies show bird watching is good for you. Actually lowers stress and boosts mental health. Just remember to bring your binoculars.
Reporting from Cape May Point State Park, Dawn Stenslamenti. Up next, Larry's commentary.
Any hopes at all for a national red flag law died last month in Portland when a former Marine had his guns confiscated by the federal government because of something he said at a protest. Red flag laws, as you probably know, allow loved ones or law enforcement to petition a judge to take the guns away from an individual who may do harm to themselves or to others. Several states have red flag laws. Oregon has one. New Jersey recently became the 18th state. The gunman who killed 17 at Marjorie Stoneman High School in Parkland, Florida, was a known threat. He was visited by state and local government and law enforcement 40 times. He raised more red flags than participants in a Chinese national military parade. After impassioned pleas by Parkland survivors and their families, a red flag law was passed in Florida, but nothing happened nationally. But then, after a series of mass shootings this past summer, the call for a national red flag law looked like a real possibility. President Trump heard the call and offered his support.
We must make sure that those judged to pose a grave risk to public safety do not have access to firearms, and that if they do, those firearms can be taken through rapid due process. That is why I have called for red flag laws, also known as extreme risk protection orders.
For the first time, this looked like a real possibility. There was movement on the issue like never before, and from, of all people, Republicans who had blocked such efforts in the past.
This hearing today is to examine red flag laws.
Despite the protest of the National Rifle Association and civil libertarians, a national red flag law seemed on track to becoming a reality. And then any hopes went off the tracks just like that, when a Portland judge, using Oregon's red flag law, signed an order allowing the FBI to take the guns away from former Marine Shane Cofield, even though he committed no crime. Cofield had written a letter to Texas Congressman and former Navy SEAL Dan Crenshaw asking for his help in designating the far-left militant group Antifa as domestic terrorists. Then, wearing a Make America Great Again hat, Cofield stood in front of Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler's home and described the disturbing words on page 5 of that letter.
I said, if Antifa gets to the point where they start killing us, I'm going to kill them next. And I told them that I'd slaughter them, and I have a detailed plan on how I can wipe out Antifa.
That statement and this video was used by the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force to get a judge to order that Cofield's guns be confiscated under Oregon's red flag law. Look, I don't disagree with that action, and after hearing Cofield's statement read in front of the mayor's house, the judge had no recourse but to sign that order. Could you imagine the backlash if he didn't sign it and something awful happened? Even Cofield understood the drastic measures. After 20 days of court-ordered time at the Veterans Hospital in Portland, he told the Oregonian, "I looked unhinged, I looked dangerous, and I have the training to be dangerous." Hospital records show that Cofield suffers from mental illness. He has been diagnosed as bipolar and has been struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder after 2 tours of combat in Iraq. Despite all of that, the case will now be used by conservative groups and the NRA to fight against a national red flag law. The story has been featured by conservative news outlets like Glenn Beck's The Blaze, The Washington Times, and Fox News. Conservatives have long complained that the government targets conservative groups and uses politics to make law enforcement decisions. And now a former Marine with a Make America Great Again hat is targeted for threatening Antifa, a far-left group that is known for violence and the conservatives will argue does not get the same scrutiny. As for NRA members, their greatest fear is that the government will come and take their guns. And now the government has come and confiscated guns. And libertarians will argue that Cofield was denied his First and Second Amendment rights without due process. In a commentary a few weeks ago, I came out in favor of red flag laws, most importantly, because they could help and prevent gun-related suicides. On average, 22,000 of the 36,000 gun deaths in this country every year are suicides. But now it looks doubtful that a national red flag law will pass. I doubt Mitch McConnell will even put it up for a vote in the Senate. And when that happens, remember the Shane Cofield story. This imperfect poster boy is all opponents of red flag laws needed to make sure that a national law fails. I'm Larry Menti. We'll talk again soon.